the first step, I'm going to take off this top engine cover. So it's just a 10mm half-inch ratchet. So I'll do these four cap nuts, and then we'll just sort of, it's got those undone, so it should just sort of pull straight off like that. You just got to be careful you don't lose those rubber grommet parts, but they're still intact. So that's the reason why we took that off. We can get to that top hose there now. So the next step, I'm going to take off that bottom hose. I don't know whether you can see, but that bottom hose down there has got a clamp on it, so I'm going to grab the multi grips. I'm just going to move it off the actual radiator. So that's got that, see, I got that clamp moved right off. So now I'm just going to grab the hose and take it off the radiator. It'll drain all the coolant out of it. Doesn't look too dirty. That's got all our coolant sort of drained out. So next step, we're going to take off this top radiator hose and we'll give it a good flush out. So it's a bit hard with one hand. Just take off that clamp. So I don't need two hands for that. Take off this other hose clamp. Just sort of need to grab it, readjust your multi grips, and re-grab it, get it right off out the way. And you can just, should just pull straight off. A bit of manoeuvring. That one's pretty dirty. And this one here looks absolutely baked on. I'm going to cut this one because it's so baked on there. I'll just put a cut. I might have to get some hot water. So put two cuts along there, and that's got that one off. I'm taking the old hose clamps off ready for the new radiator hose, but before I do that, I'm going to give it a good flush out. I'll keep that bottom radiator hose off, and I'll get a good flush out, and then we'll just sort of put rags over those endings, and then we can start working on the actual water pump. I'm just giving that a bit of a flush out with the hose. It's coming out a little bit out of that bottom hose. If you can see, it might be the water pump could be pretty blocked up on it. We'll flush the other side on here. I'm giving the radiator a good flush out. A little bit out the top, you can see on the other side at the bottom of the radiator, it's coming out a lot. So just giving that a good flush out, which is good. So that's got that all flushed. Now I'm just going to that bottom hose there. If you can see, I'm just going to grab the hose and I'm just going to sit it on the outlet so no debris gets in there, like that, so nothing gets in there. And then I'm going to just grab some rags and stuff those holes up like that. And then this one here, put a rag in there so no dust or dirt, all that gets in there, and that way then we could have got access to the water pump. We can start working on the water pump section. That's it. So now I'm going to start working on the water pump, and the water pump is right in there, you can see, and it's got this pulley on it. So I'm going to undo these four bolts to the pulley while the belt's still on, so it doesn't turn on us. So it's just I've got an 8mm 6-hex socket, 1/4 inch ratchet, and I'm just going to undo those. There's one down the bottom. Just get those loosened off. That's got those loosened off enough, and now it's just a matter of taking the engine belt off. And it's got this is the tensioner pulley. It's on actual tension, spring-loaded tension. So I've got a 15mm 1/2 inch ratchet. So when I put pressure, the pulley comes loose, and then the belt should just take it off all the pulleys to the engine and air conditioner, everything. Let's got that one out the way, and then just loosen these right off. And we can start working on the water pump. Looks like the water pump is still spinning freely, so that's our water pump assembly. And the next step, if you can see that pulley is in the way of that bolt for that bolt right there to the water pump housing. So I'm going to undo this pulley here. So I've just got a 16mm ratchet. I'm hoping it's going to just undo and just can pull off the inner race of the bearing, which it can. So I'm undoing the bolt. It's just a sealed bearing, and it's just in the way of the actual housing. So I'm just going to grab that pulley. That's the pulley. It's had a new bearing put on it. And that way we can get at that bolt easily. So next step, I'm going to scrub all around where the bolts are, give it a good degrease. I'm just gonna degrease so you can see where we're working. Especially around where the bolts are. Get a hose out. Good. So now I'm going to start taking off the water pump. I've just got a 3/8 socket to fit these. It's got three bolts at the top and there, and then I'm going to undo those bigger ones at the side. It's got another one under the bottom there. Now just going to do the other 4 bolts on the other side. The 1/2 inch ratchet only just got to that bolt there. Just taking the other pulley off. That one there. And there's two just there. And just a matter of taking those right off, and then it should just pull off. Just got all those bolts out, and a fair bit of coolant run out at the side bolts, those big bolts. We should be able to just grab it now and just sort of, it's not stuck too much. We'll have to give it a tap. So it's fairly baked on, so I had to just sort of, you can see I just give it a little tap, and it's now coming off. So should be able to just grab it and it's got the water pump off. and doesn't actually look too bad. Well, the gasket's now broken, but we'll give it all a second hose out through there and put it all back together. Before I get rid of the old water pump, I'm just seeing that it looks the same as the new one we've got. Just looks like a different impeller design, looks a little bit different. You can see there's a fair bit of scum built up on there. That's about 20 years old, that pump, and it's done 270,000 Ks, so probably due for a new one, but all the holes look like they line up the same. So just check before I throw the old water pump. I'm taking that bottom hose off. I'm doing another flush at the top here. It doesn't look like there's much coming out when they're sort of just dripping out a little bit. I've just got the hose in the left side of where the water pump goes, and it had a lot of coolant stuff. It's taken a while for the water to go clear. It's sort of flushed in around the motor. So let that run for a fair bit. And before I put the new water pump on, I want to note that you see here in the pulley, it's got little notches, and those little notches go to the right side of where the thread is. So the next step, I'm going to just clean it around where the old water pump was. So I'm just going to scrub it all, and eventually we need to get off the old gasket. And to get the old gasket off, I'll just get an old razor blade. I'm just gonna go around it and I'll just sort of scrape it all off. So that's got all that gasket sort of residue and that off. It just needs a good clean out. So I've got some wet and dry emery, and I'm going to it's got to be sort of, the surface has got to be spotlessly clean, so I'm just going to go over it with the wet and dry emery. That's got it cleaned up with the emery, and I'm just going to get a Jex and give it one last sort of finish up. So it's all got to be burr free, not allowed to have any like bruises or that, so that it will seal on the gasket properly. So that's got the surface nice and clean. I've got it all wiped with a rag, and I've got the water pump all ready to go. I've got the bolts in, and the gaskets are on. So you're going to need two hands, so I'm just going to grab it and I'm just going to put it straight on. So that's got all the bolts started. So it's a 3/8 socket for the small ones, and it's a half inch socket for the bigger bolts at the side. But the dowels have stayed intact. It's just a matter of nicking them up, and then I'm going to tension wrench them so it's all even pressure, and the thing will seal then. So So that's got all those done up by hand. I'm just going to nick them up firm, so 1/2 inch, just sort of firm. And this side. Firm. Inside. So it's done up firm. One's a bit. 4. That's it. Yeah, it's done up.